Hi, Bloody Recapped here. Today we talk about the action-packed new episodes of the Grimm series, Threat of Disappearance and The Kiss of Muse. Keep your eyes open and stay focused. Detective Nick ponders in his old trailer about an ancient treasure that he thinks was buried by his ancestors and can only be opened with a key given to him by his now-deceased aunt. Meanwhile, the farmers heard the cries of the cows and went to the field, where one of the young guys found the disemboweled bodies of the cows. But when he noticed a blue light over the hill, he went to get his gun, but he was attacked by an unknown creature, at first glance similar to a man in male clothing. The farmer's body was immediately found by his father, who only noticed the monster running away in the distance, who soon left part of his skin there in his attempts to climb over the fence. Meanwhile, Monroe and Rosalie's romantic dinner, in which they discuss his parents' arrival, is interrupted by Nick. But when he realizes that it is bad timing, he retreats to his room upstairs and looks again at the key. When Monroe comes upstairs to find out what's wrong, Nick shows him the ink trail of the key and immediately rushes downstairs to show the Grimm an ancient map from his ancient ancestor, and most likely as part of the map is in Germany about Black Forest. Nick adds that there are 7 such keys in all. They were kept by guards who found something powerful that they deemed not to give to the royal families, so they hid and left this secret between them. But by the same action they made many creatures kill each other in order to become the owner of the whole map. And while Juliet begins to remember how much she loved Nick, our blue alien Vincent returns to the abandoned barn to his pregnant wife Jocelyn. She eats the cow ovaries he brought, and he reminds her to keep going. At the same time on the police radio, George Lazar, an apparently fanatical alien hunter, hears about another cattle raid and heads to Portland. And our blue friend has a new problem. The car has stopped starting. He promises his wife to come back soon and goes to get a new car, while Nick learns information about the keys from Captain Renard. 4 of the 7 keys are with the royal family. Nick has the 5th key. Where the other 2 are, they don't know. About the contents of the treasure walks for legends. According to one, there is the secret of alchemy, another life everlasting. The third mentions the blade of the Prophet Muhammad, and finally the nails that Isis nailed to the cross, perhaps even the very parts of the cross, which must have enormous power. But also interesting details are revealed from the captain himself. The royal family wanted to kill him at birth, but allowed him to live if he did not interfere with them. But in fact his life depends on Nick. But their conversation is interrupted by Sergeant Wu, who reports a strange case with an alien, and together with Nick they go to the scene of the incident. The detective and sergeant examine a wire fence where they find a piece of cloth that looks like lizard skin, and as they were about to leave, they meet at the farm George Lazar, who introduced himself to them as a ufologist, whom the cops treated with sarcasm. Later, Maureen Rodriguez turns off the road when a skulking Vincent appears in front of her. He picks up her car and brings the unconscious woman to Jocelyn, and Dr. Harper enthusiastically reviews about the human skin with an animal reaction, the light being released because of an enzyme that is activated when the animal is agitated, for example, fighting or running away. Wu reports another witness who alleges an alien attack. Vincent, meanwhile, dutifully complies with his lover's request to stop to catch his breath, but notices an old shack and is about to move in with his wife. But when she asks for food, the man goes hunting again. When Maureen Rodriguez shows up at the Portland police station, Nick goes to the trailer, where he finds information about an alien-like creature. Wu calls and reports more attacks in Nebraska. Meanwhile, at Monroe's house, Juliet tells Ripper about her memories and worries that Nick no longer loves her. Seeing no other choice, Monroe evasively notes that Burkhart is different from ordinary people and can see things that others can't, and the girl recalls something Nick said to her in the trailer. At the same time, George Lazar is exploring the barn, where he gets a call. An unknown person informs him that a fortune will be given for 2 and a baby that has just been born, which causes our hunter to skulking to rob Condora and finish the job as soon as possible. Nick consults Rosalie about the Lightskin and learns that it is the rarest endangered species of creature, and that their pelt has a colossal price on the market. He agrees to help the aliens by turning a blind eye to the farmer's murder, and next to the road they find George's trailer.
Don't you need a warrant for that?
You're right. You open it.
Okay.
Which turns out to be a skinning operation. On the table, Monroe finds a bullet that keeps the creature alive for some time, even after death. The detective, Ripper, and Redtail head on and find a house, and in it, Jocelyn, who suddenly goes into labor. The rescue team decides to deliver the baby, but in the meantime George Lasher finds Vincent and shoots him, but misses. At the house, Vincent joins the others, and very soon a fully skulking girl is born, and when an armed Lasher enters, in a moment of confusion, the skulking Monroe attacks him and Grimm shoots the ufologist with a skulking delay bullet. The Lightskins leave in George's car for Alaska, where a small number of their congeners remain, while an armed police unit finds Lasher in Maureen Rodriguez's pickup truck. They mistake him for an alien, but the drug runs out and he takes human form before their eyes. A few weeks after the incident, Juliet begins to recall again her visions from the past, when she was scratched by a cat with poison claws that took away her memory, but she still does not believe it, believing that the cat was perfectly ordinary. Monroe, meanwhile, plans dinner and invites Nick, who goes to meet Hank, who has already managed to tear a tendon while bungee jumping, and who has also gone on vacation with his ex-wife. After a brief conversation, Nick rushes to the sound of gunshots going off in the bookstore across the street. There, Grimm finds the writer's corpse and, on the second floor, a creature forcibly restraining a girl who clearly does not want to go with him. After a brief gunfight, Nick chases after the killer, but he jumps into the river and disappears, while our fish-eater criminal gets out of the water. At the scene, the girl, who is almost a victim of the criminal, talks about how men fall in love with her easily and don't let her go for a long time, and about her relationship with both men, the murdered and the murderer, and thanks Nick by kissing his hand. Wu reports the discovery of the house of the murderer Anton, where the detectives immediately go. There they find many of his artworks, most of which depict the girl from the crime scene, Chloe. The cops also find a drawing that exactly matches the setting in the bookstore, which proves that the murder was premeditated. Burkhard receives a call from Juliet and agrees to have dinner with her, as if he forgot he had dinner with Monroe tonight because he was gazing at Chloe's picture. At the station, Nick shows Hank the drawing of the creature that was Anton, then goes to Chloe's house to continue the interrogation. In the meantime, Juliet calls Monroe and wants to take some tips for her dinner with Nick tonight, which leaves the Ripper puzzled, but like a good friend, he's quiet about it and gives the girl some tips. Meanwhile, when Nick questioned Chloe, kisses him on the lips and skulks in the muse, after which the girl sees him as a Grimm and realizing his mistake asks him to leave, but it becomes difficult to restrain him, as immediately he receives a call from Monroe and remembers about dinner with Juliet, so he is forced to leave his muse. At her house, he doesn't hear or see anything but Chloe and leaves Juliet's stories unattended and eventually returns home to Monroe, with whom he quarrels and leaves. Hank finds his partner in a bar. He draws a muse, after which he attacks the tipsy guy, who tries to take the drawing away to show his date. A worried Hank goes to Monroe and Rosalie, who decide to check the information about the drawing in the Grimm's records. There they find out the nature of Chloe, whose ancestors made Van Gogh under the influence of the same creature cut off his ear. The next morning, Hank shares observations from her biography with the rest of the men, who are no longer in this world, and Wu reports an act of vandalism. Meanwhile, Rosalie and Monroe find no cure for the muse, but Rosalie thinks that only true feelings can destroy such a thing. In the next moment, Juliet appears and asks for the key to the trailer to remember Nick. The creatures, realizing the chance, give her the key, hoping that she will help them in treating Nick. At the scene, the cops discover an oversized portrait of Chloe on the pavement, made by Anton. Nick mysteriously disappears, and the sergeant goes after him. At her house, Chloe pits Nick against Anton, but the cops show up in time, preventing Grimm from killing the creature. At the station, Hank and Renard question the girl, and she admits, not without pleasure, that she has no control over her influence over men. At the same time, the officer informs Burkhart of the whereabouts of the detainee Anton, and he finds him and prepares to shoot him, but at the same time everyone else shows up. Juliet approaches Nick, and he, after some time of persuasion, gets rid of the Muse's influence and thanks Juliet for her help. And Renard, back in the interrogation room, releases the Muse, but warns that if she returns to Portland again, his essence as a sorcerer of royal blood will not be able to restrain himself from killing her. No, please support the channel with your likes and subscribe. Our goal is 10,000 subscribers. We are trying very hard just to reduce your time in watching movies. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I won't say goodbye.